Hello. So this took longer than expected, replying to messages one by one. So I'll try to do this by reading the questions and answering them while recording a video. So there's a question of, would you outsource development of an MVP, which stands for minimal viable product, or hire an in-house developer? I would recruit or hire an in-house developer because I have the technical background and I can speak to developers and understand technical concepts. If I didn't have that experience, I would either go and learn it. It's not very difficult to learn these days with all the tools available like ChatGPT and whatnot. Or I would find a technical co-founder, or I would find an agency that I can trust, that ideally someone has recommended, that can do the development for me. It doesn't matter what you do, honestly. For an MVP, you just need to move fast and you need to get something that's working. And ideally, you need someone you trust and someone who has a portfolio, someone who has done things before. How to avoid working hard on something that people don't want? Move fast and test it very quickly. Try to not procrastinate and be a perfectionist and launch it months later. Try to launch it as soon as possible and try to get feedback. So talk to customers. Don't avoid talking to customers. The best way to find out if this is something that people want or don't want is if you launch it as soon as possible or offer the service as soon as possible, even if you're doing it manually with no tech product initially. An example of that is I think Uber initially launched through an SMS service, if I'm not mistaken. So you can message a phone number and it would automatically send you a taxi driver. Another example is if you want to do something like, Callo today, you can do it through WhatsApp without a tech product. Just test the concept with a few friends, with 5 to 10 people. And if they like it, then you can build the tech solution. Or you can build a WhatsApp bot instead of building an entire app at the beginning. What did your early traction look like? How long did it take to get to $1 million in revenue or annualized revenue? I got a bit maybe surprised with how fast it took us to get to $1 million in revenue with Callo. Initially, my goal was to achieve that within 1 year, but we achieved this within like probably 4 or 5 months. It wasn't $1 million in actual revenue, it was $1 million in annualized revenue, which means we made $83,000 a month in revenue. And if you're making $83,000 a month every single month for a year, then you're making $1 million. So in the early days, in the first 3 or 4 months, we were doing much smaller numbers. I wanted to make the app by invitation only, or the experience by invitation only, because I wasn't confident of the quality of the service. And I was testing it in a small group with a small group of people, and gradually I was adding more and more people. And then once I was more confident, we released it to the public and we did some marketing. And around the same time, COVID had happened. So that worked out very well, and we ended up getting enough customers to be making $1 million in annualized revenue. In other businesses, that takes much longer. You could also get lucky and get it sooner. I think it's always fun to calculate how many customers you need to get per month in order to achieve $1 million in annualized revenue. So for example, if you're selling a $100 product, then you need 8,300 customers per month to make $83,000. And then that is the equivalent of $1 million per year. Did I do the math right? $83, $100 product. You need 1,000. Sorry, you need 8,300. You know what? There's this saying of like, I don't do public math. Let's do the math very quickly. I have my calculator in front of me. So if it's $100 and you have 8,300 customers, well, actually, you need 830 customers at $100. I messed up. Which is a much smaller number. So imagine 830 customers paying you $100 per month gets you to $1 million in annualized revenue. That's not that much. Cool. Do you know your MBTI personality type? No, I don't. Sounds interesting. I know the INTJ thing. I did it a while ago. I honestly I forgot what it was. Did you get a consultation before approaching investors, especially the first ones? I did not get a consultation per se. I got some advice here and there, but there wasn't someone that I don't think you can pay someone and they give you advice on investments. The best people you can listen to for investment advice are people who have invested in companies or people who have received investments in their companies. And those people usually are not going to ask you for money to give you a consultation because the good ones wouldn't need the money. So the good investors are not going to tell you, pay me $1,000 and I'll tell you, how to get investment. And the people who have received investment and did well are also not going to need that $1,000 or whatever the amount is. There are lots of videos and blog posts online about this. I would look into Y Combinator, which is one of the most popular startup accelerators globally. They have a lot of content online, whether through video or through text, on how to raise funding and what investors find interesting. I would go to events like Startup Weekend. I would go to certain startup events like in the region. There's Step Conference that happens. There's Biban in Riyadh. There's Leap in Riyadh. And those would have some sessions about fundraising. The earlier video got disconnected by accident. Next question. Is it possible to build a startup solo while also going to university? 100% it's possible. A lot of people have done it. I just think that if someone was doing the exact same thing at the same time in the same place and they did not have the university commitment, they would then have more of a chance to beat you. Like they would be able to spend more time, obsess more over the customer, and do things you might not be able to do. So it just gives them an advantage over you. Would love to hear more about the job specifics. It's about the content creator job. You can email, I think, I don't really, I think I've shared enough. If you're interested, then email, and if your application is good enough, it's only gonna take you like a few minutes, hopefully, to make a video. Nothing fancy, just, introduce yourself, and then happy to share more, but, the job will pay very well. That's all I can tell you, and it's important I mentioned the important things. You need to be very flexible, and you need to know how to make content. How much would it cost to make someone make me a simple app like Canva for an MVP? There's no specific number. You can have someone make you a very quick and dirty version, and maybe that person is a student and they're doing it for fun and they're learning, and they're going to charge you a few $1,000s, maybe a couple of $1,000s. And then you can pay someone like $20,000 to make an MVP. It just depends on their experience, on who they are, on how fast they're going to do it, on how good it's going to be. But yeah, I think the simple answer is it's going to cost you anywhere between $3,000 and $30,000 to build an MVP. And it depends on many factors. What makes it 3,000 versus 30,000? I don't think you should pay more for an MVP. I also don't think you should pay $30,000 for an MVP unless it's a very complex product and you have some validation and you've had customers before. Best book I've read recently. I honestly haven't been reading as many books recently, so maybe my memory is not very. I'm opening Audible on my phone just to see, because I've been listening to books in the past maybe year more than reading. Let's see. Okay, When the Body Says No. It's not a business book, but it's a book about how mental health impacts physical health. I think it's very important for everyone to learn more about that over their lifetime. But it was more relevant for me in the past maybe year or so. And then somewhat of a business book was Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. And it would talk about delegation, it would talk about how to create systems for yourself, it would talk about how to basically buy back your time. When you say content creator, are you looking for an already established creator? I'm looking for someone who knows how to create content. I don't want to work with someone who is going to learn with me on the spot. I'm 19, I don't know what to start to work on. I know I want to work on something, but I don't know what. There's no question there. Maybe be more specific, and maybe I can help. But quick piece of advice would be, if you don't know what you want to do, by the way, most people don't know what they want to do, so it's fine. Like you're on the same boat as like most people. I think the best way to find out what you want to do is to try to do a bunch of different things. So do whatever, say yes to all opportunities that are around you. Go to events. If you have like a freelance gig, someone asks you to help them with something, say yes. Go and help them and learn more about it. And in the process, you will learn what you like and what you don't like, and you will learn what you are naturally good at and what you're not. And you will also be building connections, as long as you are, not failing those people who are, taking a chance on you or asking you for help. You go and commit and help them for a short period of time, and then move on and do something else. What's your max bench press in kg? I don't know, honestly. I don't do a lot of bench presses. I do a lot of calisthenics. I'll find out and let you know in the future, hopefully. Can you be my mentor? I'm 20 years old and I'm building a startup. I've sent you a DM. I'll check it out later. I'd love to mentor as many people as possible, but there's reality to my time limitations. So anyway, I'll check out the DM and I'll see. But for everyone else listening, I would love to help, but it's just, I think I can only probably mentor like 1 to 5 people at any given moment. And the best mentorship relationships are long-term relationships, which means I can only take on someone else if I had finished the mentorship journey and the person no longer needs to, to be mentored. I've been following you since the Selfie Station 10 years ago. I'm so proud of you. Keep booming. Thank you very much. Selfie Station, for context, was my first business at 19 from college. Running my first startup alone, midway to launch with a proven concept. Any important tips? Launch fast. The faster you can launch, the better. Don't wait. Don't delay it. Don't postpone it. Best of luck. Your story is truly inspirational. 1 billion valuation. For more inspiration, please. Inshallah. Working on it. Definitely, that's the plan. How did you learn to manage big businesses as a new entrepreneur? I learned on the spot. I've never been in big businesses. The biggest business I've ever been in is Callow. So I had to learn on the spot. There's no magic recipe. I've read a lot of books about the topic. So you have books like, what's it called? By Jim Collins. I forgot the name of the book, but it talks about, just Google Jim Collins, you'll find he has a few books. It's the Red, the Red Book, very popular one. And it talks about what makes big public companies, what makes some of them very successful, what makes others not very successful. There's a sequel for the Lean Startup, which I think is called The Startup Way, that also talks about how to scale startups. There's a book called Blitzscaling by Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, that talks about how to scale a startup. There's a book called High Growth Handbook. I think it's by Elad Gil. There are many books on the topic. I've read a lot of books. I've listened to a lot of podcasts, and I've watched interviews with founders from the US or from different geographies that have maybe scaled a lot of startups way beyond anything I'm used to like $100 billion plus outcome. So yeah, I'd recommend you do that. And also by trial and error, quite frankly. And one more thing, when you scale a startup, you get the chance and the opportunity to recruit people who are more experienced than you are at different things. So I've learned a lot from the people I work with because they've been in bigger companies, they've seen how bigger companies are managed and run. I have 2 business ideas, but I struggle with overthinking, delaying their launch. Any advice? Just do it. Yeah, I think that there's no simple advice here. I think, what do you want? What are you optimizing for? If you want to launch a business, then you should launch it. Ask yourself, go open a piece of paper or open your phone or laptop and type, why am I postponing this? Why am I not launching this? And try to understand what are the reasons that are getting in the way. What's making you hesitant and not certain and not biased to action, and go and tackle those reasons. So if one of the reasons is I'm scared, then ask another question, which is, what am I scared of? What am I afraid of? What's the worst that could happen? It's very normal to get stuck in a mental rut and not move. But I think you just need to be very honest with yourself. You need to communicate, like talk to yourself basically. And I do this through journaling. I write every single day. I used to do it on Google Keep. Now I do it on Notion. I just write. I write a question and then I answer it. Super helpful. All right. I'm in the branding phase of my clothing brand. Any tips? It's quite a generic question. Yeah, I think a tip for branding would be to be intentional. Like, figure out what are the brand values and who are you serving, and um, try to be consistent. So if you say these are my brand values, like the one brand value is honesty, then be extremely honest. And when you can't deliver something on time, then communicate that ahead of time. If one of your brand values is service, like super high quality service, then make sure that you walk the walk, not just talk the talk. I hope this is helpful, but this is also like a very high level question, so I don't know if I can actually answer it very effectively. How do you approach decision making during periods of uncertainty or high risk? Beautiful question. This happens all the time. If your like business is growing, then you have a lot of like decision making fatigue. You have a lot of periods of uncertainty and high risk. Journaling, one more time. I think writing down what the problem is very important. There are a couple of methods I've developed over time to help me make decisions faster. One of those is doing a SWOT analysis. SWOT stands for, so it's SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And if you do a SWOT analysis on each one of the options, so let's say you have two major options, you look at the strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats of each of the options, and then just see which one you're more comfortable with. Another way is seeing what's the best case scenario and what's the worst case scenario of each of the options, and then deciding accordingly. You can consult people, you can ask people, you can sleep on it. But at the end of the day, you need to make the decision. So I think just like journaling, consulting and asking people, and being intentional about what is the outcome, reminding yourself of the goal. What is my goal and what's the worst that could happen if I do this, and what's the best that could happen, and then getting closer to an answer through those thoughts. I think I'll pick one or two more questions in English and then I'll wrap this video up, and I'll do another video on Arabic. The hardest mental or cognitive challenge you faced in your beginnings and overcome. This is a very heavy question. It's a great one. Hamza, I thank you for asking it. This might get a bit personal, but I had to. I think the period of time when I wanted to drop out of college, and there were lots of like issues back and forth between me and the family, of the family not accepting or approving of me leaving college, and me really wanting to like focus on the business. That was a very tough mental / emotional challenge, and yeah, that was probably one of the toughest. Yeah, and eventually, like I there was no clear way to overcome it, but I tried different things, and I ended up having to compromise, and I ended up trying to do both, and I just kept going. I guess I kept going, and I wanted to keep going 12 hours a day, and I needed to drop out of college to do that, and I couldn't. So I ended up like sleeping less for a while and did it for 10 hours a day instead of 12 hours a day, and still did college and didn't do it very well. So yeah, I think that was a very tough challenge. Another very tough challenge was maybe about a year and a half ago, when my business partner told me he wants to leave the business and he wants to do something else. That was really tough because I was relying on him for many different aspects, and we were already understaffed. So my very big, tough challenge was, now I need to do his work as well, and I need to recruit for his role, so I need to find his replacement, and I need to recruit for the 5 additional roles that are already missing. And how am I going to do this without dropping the ball on the business performance? That was extremely tough. How I've overcome this requires maybe a video of its own, so I'll leave it for another day. Okay, like this is the last question, and these are amazing questions, and maybe I go back and try to answer the rest of them, but I just feel like this video is going to end up being very long. What are the biggest mistakes you see young entrepreneurs making today? Maybe they're not very different from the mistakes I've done myself and I've seen happen in the past. The regular mistakes, or like the common mistakes, are being a perfectionist and not wanting to launch until something is perfect, falling in love too much with your idea instead of focusing on the customer. But maybe one of the mistakes I've noticed in younger founders, by younger I mean like my age when I started, but today, is impatience. I was very impatient, but maybe I've spoken to a couple of young founders whom I thought were way more impatient than I was. And maybe that's fine too. Like, I think every age, every generation has different ways of doing things. But I just think with some things you have to like stick them out. Like, you have to do the hard work. You have to, stay with the problems that you don't want to deal with. The magic, a lot of magic lies in doing things that you don't like doing because you need to do them and nobody else is going to do them. So this would be a big mistake I see younger founders or young entrepreneurs do today. All right, I'll stop here. I'm really tempted to keep going, but I'll stop just because the video is probably now more than 20 minutes long, and I'll attempt to do another one in Arabic, and maybe if I get good responses on this video, then I might do another one as a continuation to answer more questions. Thank you very much. I hope you find this useful. Peace.